You can't see, but I've got goosebumps like coming up around my ears under these headphones.
When you're framing your shots, are you having your social media vertical content in mind?
TikTok's like a strange blend between a YouTube and an Instagram.
They're expecting to see the $10,000 camera after they've seen the iPhone footage.
People do underestimate YouTubers.
Oh, yeah, something has happened once, but the police have come.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to the Get Seen, Get Booked podcast for wedding photographers and wedding videographers. And also welcome to the very, very first episode. And I'm super excited to launch this podcast. It's something that me and Jamie have been tinkering with and toying with for a long time. I know a lot of you guys have been following us inside of the Get Seen, Get Booked Facebook group where we go live every single week. And we have discussed launching a podcast, but one of those New Year's resolutions that we decided we were absolutely sticking to is we're going to get it launched this January, and that's what we are going to do. Jamie, anything you want to jump in before we bring the first guest on, mate?
No, mate, buzzing to get this off the ground. Get out there. Really excited to have this guest on, especially as our first one to kick off in a big way. So yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, I'm super excited to bring Russell on because Russell Nicholls is who we've got on today. Hi, Russell. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. How you doing?
No, all good, all good. I mean, I was messaging Russell back in August, actually, saying, right, look, we're definitely launching this podcast. I want you to be on for the first episode, and we're going to be launching next year. And he's like, right, let's get it recorded in December or in January. I don't know if you just want to give an introduction about yourself, Russell, and let everyone know who you are.
Sure, yeah. Thank you, first of all, very much for having me on as your first guest. It's quite an honour. My name's Russell, or my full name is Russell Kent Nicholls. I find it weird when people use that because it's up until now that was like my brand name, but it is my full biological given name. But yeah, before that I was just Russell Nicholls. But I am Russell, and I am a wedding filmmaker based in the UK. I also do a fair bit of like bridal editorial stuff. I've dabbled in music videos and commercial work, but I think weddings are always going to be at my core. And I would say international weddings are probably where I'm driven towards. So I've done a fair few international weddings and really, really enjoy those. But yeah, just doing a bit of everything, a bit of YouTube, and also education for wedding filmmakers is a big thing for me, because when I was first starting out in the wedding industry, I was watching so many YouTube videos and kind of really looking up to people that were standing out, I guess. And that's kind of where I've learned how to become a better wedding filmmaker and being able to give back to the wedding filmmaking community by sharing tips and things that I've learned along the way. And yeah, that's kind of my strategy, just putting myself out there and sharing back the knowledge that I've kind of learned over the years.
No, I mean, you are actually super helpful, because I remember I was at a wedding fair and I bumped into another wedding videographer. I was actually dragged to the wedding fair by the missus.
Yeah.
I got speaking to another wedding videographer there, and I was explaining to him that I was shooting on the Panasonic GH5 and I was considering going to the Lumix S5 II or the Sony. And
Okay.
he went, "Look, before you make a decision," he went, he used your full name. He went, "Drop Russell Kent Nicholls a message," and he went, he'll give you some good advice. So me and Russell have never actually met face to face like this before, but I bombarded him with a lot of voice notes and Instagram messages, and I do appreciate the help that you give us on that.
No worries. I do feel like part-time unofficial Lumix support helpline, to be fair, but I love it. I love the Lumix cameras. Actually, I got into Lumix probably like 2016, and I remember watching. So my wedding industry idol is White and Reverie. I don't know if you're familiar with their work, based over in Colorado in the US. And I remember putting their reviews up of the GH5, and I was thinking, wow, that footage looks incredible. Like, one day I would love to have a camera like that and be able to shoot stuff like that. So yeah, Panasonic is always it's always going to be in my blood, even if I am using other cameras in between. But I feel whatever tool is right for the job, I think is the best one for you.
I don't know if you could kind of like take on that journey a little bit then, because I was just I scrolled back quite a bit on your YouTube, and I got back to your footage where you were shooting on the GH5. But and obviously, even your footage then is great. But obviously, the footage that you're putting out now, I mean, the wedding films and the highlights that you're putting out now is like Netflix standard. Like it looks so cinematic. But
Yeah.
what's your journey been like for as a wedding filmmaker, kind of going from where you started to the level that
Yeah.
you're at now?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it mostly boils down to practice and also looking at other work and being like, right, how does that look like it does? I couldn't explain it, but I'd watch like examples on YouTube and think, right, I want my work to look like that. Why does that look different to mine? And there's a combination of things like making sure I'm using the right shutter speed, the right frame rates, using an ND filter to try and keep that natural motion blur, using faster lenses, using primes, and also using a gimbal to make sure that things are like smooth and stabilized and that type of stuff. So it's been a long process. I was switching gear and lenses all the time in the search for that look that I wanted, and it was kind of like a high end, I guess, full frame look. GH5 was amazing, but I think being a micro four thirds sensor and not having as much depth of field versus full frame kind of made me look at other options. So when Lumix brought out the S series, I was like, okay, that's really starting to look like exactly what I want. But yeah, I feel like now I've finally settled on a style that I'm happy with using the Lumix lenses. And yeah, just changing. I tell you what, one of the biggest things was actually learning to shoot in log rather than just using the natural profile, because I was always really scared of shooting in log because I think it sounds more complicated than it actually is. I think that helps.
Shooting natural for weddings.
Yeah, so I was shooting natural, and it was fine. But I now that I can understand how to shoot in log, I can see the difference when I look back at my old stuff. And do you know what? I remember putting my work in the Panasonic Facebook group, and somebody said, "You don't shoot in log. Look at those highlights or something." And I thought, and that stuck with me. So I was like, right, I'm going to learn how to shoot in log, and I'm going to do whatever they are expecting from my highlights. I didn't even know what they were talking about at the time. But yeah, I think just looking at other filmmakers' work, mostly in the USA, because that's kind of what appeals to me, and being like, right, how have they got it like that? And it is all settings and practice.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think it is about that style that is not just different from, I suppose, like the British or UK style?
Yeah.
Or what is it about that do you think is different and like appeal to you from the beginning?
I think it's just, for me, it's exciting, and I think because it looks like when you get the right combination of settings and kit, it really can look like something that could be as good as a Hollywood movie in terms of the actual look that combination is giving you. And ever since I got started with cameras, I was like, I want it to look as good as it can. And it's amazing now that the equipment that can cost us a few thousand can look as good as something that was like 50,000 a few years ago. So yeah, I'm easily impressed, but I just wanted it to look as good as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One question that I've got for you, and
Yeah.
we've got a coaching program called the Wedding Business Accelerator,
Okay.
and your name comes up in there. A couple of times you came up in conversation,
Right.
and I don't know if you remember this when I commented on one of your YouTube videos a few months back asking if you were
Very positively, we might add.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
very
good.
positively, very positive. It's not in a bad way.
Very positive mention.
I don't know if you remember, I commented on one of your YouTube videos a few months back asking if you were a solo shooter or if you had other shooters with you, because one of the conversation that comes up, because the group's mixed of photographers and videographers, but this was it was a kind of a videography point question that was coming up, and it seems like when we're looking at your work, because sometimes I'll go to your work for inspiration just to see what it is that you're doing, and the question was like, it seems like people who are at your level seem to have like 5 hours with the couple because of the type of the content that they're shooting. So I don't know if you can talk me through, because I want to move into the content side of things, how you do use it for social media. But on an actual wedding day, how much time are you actually getting with the couple? And if you're shooting with a photographer, how do you share the time, and how does that look? Because like I said, the point was, it seems like people like Russell has 2 hours just to get these really cinematic shots. So if you could explain a bit of that would be great.
Sure. So I guess it varies with destination weddings versus UK weddings. With destination weddings, my kind of the package that I offer with the clients is 3 days. So I'll ask for 5 days total accommodation. Let's say it's Monday to Friday. The wedding day would be on the Wednesday in the middle, right? Then I've got the Tuesday and the Thursday to get additional couple content. So with destination, it's easy because it's all included within that. But in the UK, yeah, I would love 2 hours with the couple, but it's realistically it's probably two sets of 20 minutes.
Wow.
Probably the first set would be straight after the formal photos. So like after the ceremony, drinks reception, and mingling, then the photographer would normally move into the group shots, so tick off the formal shots, and then before they go in for dinner and speeches. So I'd say probably average time is like what half past three, half past three, for the group photos. We would go and take them away for like 15, 20 minutes after that. And the way that I work with photographers, and if I'm completely honest, the results that I get are normally better if I know the photographer, because we can kind of work more, more easily together. We can kind of know how each other shoots. So I would always let the photographer go first, and then I'd be like, right, is it okay if I jump in and get a couple of shots? And then I would just make sure that I'm giving the couple direction, make them feel super relaxed. So a bugbear for me is seeing videographers that are filming a couple just like frozen together and like looking like they're posing for a photo. And I think that really takes away from for me, it makes me disconnect from that, because I can see that that's just them posing for a photo.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I was just going to say, do you find when you're setting up those shots,
yeah,
how much direction is given you? So, for example, I think it was it this week or last week when I give the example of there's an amazing video that you posted on Instagram of you're in like a speedboat, and it's like iPhone versus £10,000 camera setup.
yeah.
And I was telling everyone about how great that shot was, but
Mm-hmm.
one of the photographers that we have in the accelerator was talking about, like, a lot of times they'll be the one that leads like the creative ideas for going into cornfields and getting this, but then how does
Yeah.
that clash with videographers, and who tends to like lead the ideas, or do you meet with the other beforehand, or how does that process come together for you?
So it's definitely a collaborative process, and making sure, I guess, you do have to kind of read the room, if you haven't worked with the photographer before, how much you're going to put them out by taking up time, because photographers, sometimes they are either used to working with videographers and they're like, yeah, this is totally 50-50, or sometimes they might be like, why is the videographer directing the couple? What's he doing? So I guess before we get to the couple portraits, if I haven't worked with the photographer before, I'll speak to them and just say, hey, is it all right if I just like jump in after you? Literally, I'll be 2 minutes. That's what I'm always saying. Like, I'd literally just be 2 minutes. And they're shooting whilst I'm directing as well, because I think with video, I can't necessarily film the couple being directed for photos, because it looks like they're just posing for photos. Whereas the photographer can still shoot what I'm directing for video. So yeah, I do quite a lot of direction, but not in like it's in a very like low key, relaxed way. So for example, on that boat, I literally just had them sit with each other and just say, just be cute with each other and just keep looking, keep your eyes closed, and they'll give her a kiss on the forehead. I've got like a little mental handbook of poses that are kind of my go-to. Specifically on that speedboat, that the couple actually went out twice. They went once with the photographer and then once just with me. So that I think helped a lot. It meant that I could not fall into the water. I could stay central to the couple. Because that was terrifying actually, that experience. So I'm glad I had space to hold on.
I would have had 10-foot nets either side of the boat so my camera didn't fall in the water.
You should have seen me getting in on and off the boat. The guy shouted in something in Italian, like, don't do what you're about to do, and I jumped and grabbed onto the railings. But yeah, sometimes you just have to do what you got to do to get the shot.
I mean,
Do you know what's funny? The way, sorry, go on, Billy.
No, go on. I was going to ask another question just on the back of that. So you go first, and I'll
Yeah,
go.
just on the way. So the way that it came up about working with the photographer slash videographer, whichever one you are, and
Yeah.
then working with, because both inside the accelerator both had the similar questions. But one thing that came up as a photographer, well, one of the photographers is a great photographer. There was a content creator who obviously they're becoming a lot more popular at weddings now. And he'd set up this beautiful shot, gorgeous lighting, like blue lighting at nighttime in front of this wonderful, like really beautiful shot. And of course, the content creator is just there, like over his shoulder, and then posting that as their work,
Yeah.
like, and it looks amazing for them. But actually, the photographer is the one that set it up, has brought the light in, but it's like it's done everything.
Yeah.
What that's how that
Controversial.
came into context. What are you? How do you feel about the whole content creator generation of in terms of weddings, and how do you think that's playing into things? What's your experience with them?
I think I'm gonna have to be careful what I say. Yeah, to be honest, I've had a few weddings with content creators. Some very lovely people, very easy to work with, very respectful, and haven't been a problem. If I'm being honest, a couple of times I've had to say to them, please, like, try and be more spatially aware of where the others are.
Very
I've had to,
diplomatic.
yeah, yeah. The thing is, I am very much pro people running their own business, being their own boss, seeing an opportunity, and if the market's there, absolutely amazing. Like the more the merrier, and I would 100% support that. I think we have to look and be careful that we are not supporting the cannibalization of other content, which has maybe had a bit more of a learning curve, a financial commitment, and something. Yeah, I guess we need to think from a longevity point of view. How, if I'm offering a service at X amount of thousands of pounds versus a few £100 shot on a mobile phone in the wrong settings that can't be watched on a TV, might probably be lost in the future because of phone upgrades and stuff like that. I think they're two totally different products, and each one serves a purpose. Is it something that I'll be offering to my clients? Probably not. But then I am quite often whipping out my phone and getting that kind of content for my own marketing purposes anyway, which I'm always happy to share with my client, because I'm still providing a more premium service as well as that. So yeah, I'm pro people taking opportunities, but I don't know how long it's going to last either. I don't know if it's a bit of a 1 or 2 year thing, but we shall see.
I think it's just so you're not on the spot by yourself. I'll give you what I think of it, because I think I come from a different perspective, not being a videographer or photographer, and just coming from the business and marketing kind of look on the whole, outside looking in, if you like.
Yeah.
I think I agree with what you said 100% in terms of people being able to. I think it kind of started with people who are social media managers, like day to day, and they've just seen like a weekend where they can earn like 5, 6, 7, £800, and they're like,
yeah.
oh,
And I
like,
think
like,
that's amazing.
yeah.
That's how we all get started.
Yeah, I think, for sure. I think that's a good opportunity for them. I do think it's also, there is some, as one thing I've always said, and I think in the last few years, like before COVID, I think wedding photographers and wedding videographers specifically are now kind of last of the party to have to like forcefully market themselves, whereas previously they didn't really have to, because work would come quite hot and heavy. And I don't think the industry's ever been as competitive or like choppy, like up and down as it is now. I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of things that have come into play, a lot of different factors. But I think that I think that one of the biggest things is that the content creators, and this is a bit of, I didn't know this, but they actually just deliver things like raw, just so like people can open their own phones and clip them together themselves. Some might offer like an extra package where they edit them for Reels and TikTok and stuff. But I think that's probably a central focus, is the speed of delivery.
Yeah.
And and the fact that it's instantly shareable. I don't think a lot of couples, brides, grooms know the difference as well as we do, especially as you guys do, in terms
Yeah.
of what that difference is. So I think it's more of a little bit of a sales objection, if you like, in terms of having like explaining it. Maybe there's a section on your website. But if I'm a videographer, the first thing I would do is bolt it onto my service if I have the time and ability. I don't know enough. Billy will tell you I don't know enough about setup and where you've got to be and all that kind of like being in the moment. But that's I would be offering it as a bolt on because I definitely think it's something that's there, and I
Yeah.
think that a videographer could just like bolt on a lot of profit, a good percentage of profit onto a job for stuff that is already being done.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something that I've thought about, but at the same time, in a lot of cases, I try and deliver a trailer to my clients within 1 or 2 days anyway. So I'm hoping that that would be the first thing that they would share rather than clips
Yeah.
from an iPhone. I have had a couple of times where it's the day or two after the wedding, and then iPhone footage is up of me working, and it's like when I'm posing and working with the couples, I'm taking into consideration a very specific angle, and obviously the iPhone is taken from a different angle, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't look quite how it does when with as much intent, and also that I feel like is with the client seeing it straight away on a phone. Are they kind of over it by the time that my video of the same shot, like I don't know, let's say like a bride's reveal with the dad, if she sees it from a mobile phone, is it going to have the same impact after I've delivered that? So I think those are the things that we need to think about. But I don't see it as a long term thing. I feel like it will be a few people will
I
have it,
honestly,
and then
I think the videographers are going to eat the space up if they click. Because,
yeah,
like, for example, that video that you posted where, like, it was such a good line that you put as well, like, stop telling me you prefer iPhone shots. I think the more videographers post that, it's gonna drill that. It's gonna really showcase the difference. What I feel
yeah,
like the general public, like a bride or a groom, who's not in any kind of media industry, they don't really know the difference. They can't do that mental math to get there.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think the more like posts that people just post organically and stuff like that, be like, okay, right, I see what you're talking about. It's like
Yeah,
that's a
and I
big
think
difference.
in my brochure and on my website, I try and say like specifically, I'm using cinema cameras that shoot in 6K, 8K, or whatever. So I guess it's trying to show people that have no idea about cameras that there's the quality that goes into the process versus shooting on a phone is reflected in the price, I guess. So
Yeah,
When you are when you framing, so this is a good question for you then. So when you framing your shots from your proper camera, not your iPhone,
yeah,
are you having your social media vertical content in mind? Because I've started to always make sure that I'm getting the shot that I need for the 16:9 video, but I'm
yeah,
framing it in a way that I know that I could also use it for me vertical content as well. Because
yeah,
the whole conversation about kind of content creators, like I made a YouTube video on this probably about 8 months ago, talking about why couples don't need to hire a content creator as well as a videographer because in one of my packages, I offer a viral social media package. But what I'm doing is I'm making vertical content, not from a phone, but from the camera that I'm shooting the wedding on.
yeah. Makes sense.
Shooting in 4K, exporting it in HD 1080 so I can have the crop factor and keep the good value. But you
Yeah.
also get that cinema look because it's from the camera that is the better quality. So do you have that in mind or not?
With weddings, probably not. But with the Lumix, if I'm shooting on Lumix, I'm normally shooting in the 3x2 open gate, which means that I have got a slightly taller aspect ratio to work with than shooting 16:9. Yeah, with weddings, probably not, because I think my main focus on a real wedding is the client. So I'm not necessarily thinking how can I market until afterwards, really. I think then I can kind of work with what I've got. But yeah, I resisted posting vertical content for a long time because I thought it just doesn't look, it looks terrible. Like it doesn't look like how you're missing so much off of that. So I guess I have toyed with doing like the stacked threes in a vertical framing. But yeah, I don't think I don't consider it so much when I'm shooting real weddings. But yesterday, for example, I was doing a bridal editorial, and I was shooting widescreen because they want me to create like a YouTube video, but actually the main purpose is reels. So I just put on the frame overlay on the screen. You can do that on the Panasonic. You can do it on DJI cameras. I think a fair few cameras allow you to put like a 9:16 overlay on the monitor. So I just blacked out the left and right sides, and then was framing my shots directly with the 9:16, the vertical in mind. But I know that I've got the whatever's on the either side in for YouTube as well. So yeah, in answer to the question, sorry. With weddings, not so much, but with everything else, yes.
Because your reels on Instagram, like you get like a real on your vertical content, so the reels, you get like real consistency with your views, like thousands of views. I've seen there's one there over 100,000 views. And
Yeah,
something you said there was quite interesting, where you said that it doesn't, the vertical content never looks how you know it looks from the original footage.
yeah,
But and this comes up quite a lot inside of our Get Seen Get Booked Facebook group, where trying to explain to, and I think it's coming from a creative background. So because we're all creatives, we always want
yeah,
to kind of showcase the best work. But then
yeah,
when we kind of flip the switch from a marketing perspective, the bride and grooms who are getting married, because everyone's kind of like addicted to the phones and social media, they kind
yeah,
of like expect to see vertical content now. So the
yeah,
kind of the workflow that we push when we're explaining how you should be running ads or any of the content you're putting out there is grab their attention with the vertical content, move
yeah,
them across to a channel like your website, where you can then showcase like your cinematic 16:9 footage that way. That's kind of the
yeah.
workflow, what we're finding is working at the moment.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I've got my YouTube channel and try and push people over to that as well, because then they can actually see it on the TV. They can
Yeah.
see it in the proper quality that they're paying for. And also I think with YouTube they'll see that I do other stuff, like they can see me work, they can see that there's quite a fair bit of different things about how I work, little vlogs and stuff like that. So I guess that's all part of like the brand exposure for me. But yeah, I try and get them onto the YouTube channel so they can see it actually
Mhm.
like they can spend proper time looking at it and taking it in from a filmmaker's perspective, because I think that the way that everything's now as short as possible is very frustrating for somebody that's trying to sell a long form high quality package.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've learned a few tricks with reels in terms of having a format for getting the views and shares. So I can kind of give you a few
Let's hear
tips
it.
on, yeah. So I think the shorter the better, unfortunately. So like maximum 15-20 seconds really is kind of, if I guess when I'm making a reel, I'm like, is this a portfolio piece, or is this something that I want to have loads of views? Because I'm kind of thinking, am I going to sacrifice um, the I guess the sentimentality of this clip for views? Am I going to sell myself out, or am I going to showcase my actual footage on this? So I guess what I'm thinking is, right, let's do a reel that's 10 seconds long, but it needs to have, there's a few ingredients. It needs to have a trending song, and I probably don't know what that is until I am nearly posting. So what I'll do is I'll post like a pretend, I'll draft a pretend one with just a picture of my cat or something, so I can see which songs are trending, and I'll scroll and I'll scroll and I'll look for that little arrow, and I'll kind of play one. And if is it a song that people would expect to hear from me? Like, is it lyrical pop? And then I'll find that song, and then I will try and edit a reel to that. So if there's like a beat drop or a like a I don't know, I don't know anything about music, but like, is the punchline of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
song on the point? I'll try and edit to that. Using titles is really important in reels, because that is, people are going to try and read that whilst the video is actually playing again. That keeps them reading it, so that'll stop them from scrolling. And then having like, you've got a hook, and then you have like the the middle bit, and then you have a conclusion. So there's like 3 parts to it. So you've got to try and really capture their attention within the first few seconds. So, for example, the one you were saying about the iPhone versus $10,000 camera, automatically the people are expecting to see the $10,000 camera after they've seen the iPhone footage. So it was literally like probably 7 seconds. And the shorter they are, the more likely that it's going to roll, that it's going to start from the beginning again. So that will count as an additional view. So that's why people do reels that are like 3 seconds long, because they're going to watch it several times, which is going to ramp up the view count, which is then going to be pro algorithm. And other tips. Yeah, I'm actually not pretending, but I'm using the TikTok font on my reels, even if I don't even put them on TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok for me is a waste of time. My clients aren't on TikTok. I don't know if that's where my audience is, but I sometimes will repurpose reels anyway on there. But yeah, I'll use the font, which I think is called Proxima Nova, semi-bold, and I'll put like a 3-pixel black outline in Final Cut on that. And I'll try and make it look like it's from TikTok, because I feel like people that are looking at social media content, they're like, oh, that looks like it looks like a viral reel. So that's definitely helped. Easy to read as well. I mean, and just keeping it punchy, keeping it short, and having an intro and a punchline.
I must say, if you are posting reels where somebody is getting married in the middle of the sand dunes in Africa, that's definitely going to help your views. Because that wedding, what was it? Just like briefly take me through that. What has been the most like memorable, breathtaking? What's the best like wedding that you've done in terms of like wow factor for you?
Oh, I've got, you can't see, but I've got goosebumps like coming up around my ears under these headphones, because I don't have any other answer apart from that wedding in Namibia.
That looked insane.
Not just because of the journey, but the couple, I still speak to them like most weeks now. Like, we become good friends, and they were a couple that were so invested. They were so invested in me. Like, it was until you've had that, it's such a bizarre experience. Like a lot of our jobs are like purely transactional. This couple were a super fan from the get-go. They were so excited they'd seen my work on YouTube, and they were planning this elopement in Africa, and yeah, they were so grateful to have me there. And likewise, the trip that we had was just unbelievable, like a multi-day trip, hot air balloon. We got up on the day of the wedding at 4:00 in the morning to go and have a hot air balloon ride, and then the wedding was later that afternoon. It was so magical. Nothing has quite topped it since then. So I do feel like that was peak career for me. Yeah, the couple they're so lovely, and that was definitely career highlight for me.
Were you in danger of getting eaten by anything at any point?
Not in Africa, actually. I only literally saw one giraffe and a few zebras. Yeah. No, it's actually last year I was nearly eaten by a bear in Canada, but that was my own fault. Apart from that, it was pretty safe.
How do you think if you go back to the years like when you first started shooting weddings, what was kind of your turning point? Because I'm guessing you didn't start shooting weddings and just decide, right, I'm going to do destination weddings, shooting around the world. Because I think most people listening to this are probably going to be in the same kind of situation level that I'm at, shooting local weddings, kind of local area.
Yeah.
How do you think you went from that kind of start up to these huge destination weddings?
Well, I think it's if a client emails you and inquires with you, but you don't have any destination content in your portfolio, then I feel like you've been very lucky, because I feel like the posting destination portfolio stuff is going to attract more of the same. So I was very fortunate enough to be invited to do a style shoot in 2019 with planner Valentina from the Stars Inside, makeup artist Storm, and photographer Rebecca Carpenter. You've probably heard of her. And they invited me to come along for the style shoot, and this is all self-funded. So they'd all spent their own time and money to organise a portfolio shoot, and yeah, in order to get the inquiries for international content, you got to showcase what you can do. So whether that be spending £1,000 on a flight to Greece, hiring a model couple, renting a dress and a suit, and just making that content and posting it, that is what's going to attract those types of clients. So people are attracted to what they can kind of relate to. Mm-hmm. So I think after I put the YouTube video of Santorini on YouTube, the views started climbing and I was getting inquiries from YouTube. And I think a lot of people actually overlook YouTube as an inquiry platform. I get most of the traffic to my website directly from YouTube. And
is that where you get most of your leads from, YouTube?
I think I get most of the views from there. Most of the visits to my website from YouTube. But that could also probably be to do with the digital product side. Most of the inquiries I think come from Instagram. Okay. But yeah, the couple that booked me from the wedding in Africa, that was from that video on YouTube. They'd seen me on YouTube, and then the link to my website was in the description. Okay. So they'd obviously sat and watched that in the right quality. They watched the whole thing. So I think YouTube's like a good place for people to sit and actually appreciate the detail of your work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah.
I do think people do underestimate YouTube as a especially from an organic channel.
Definitely, because it shows up in Google search results a lot as well.
Yeah, because I know like when you if you're uploading a blog and you pull it on your website and you pull a video in, it can help with SEO rankings and stuff. It's from Google as well. So yeah, I think people definitely underestimate it. So I think if you're not posting your wedding films on YouTube, you should absolutely be doing that. So what other channels are popular for you? Is it just Instagram and YouTube? Are they the two main ones that you are using?
Yeah, I don't use Vimeo. In fact, I feel like I need to delete that because I feel like there's probably a lot of old stuff from 2019 on Vimeo that's probably not doing me any favors. So I'll remind myself to delete that later. Yeah, Facebook. I have a Facebook page, obviously, just because of Instagram, really, just cross-posting that. But I turned off Facebook messages because I felt that the type of clientele that were messaging me on Facebook weren't they weren't the type of clients I was hoping to reach. Mm-hmm. So I actually turned off the message button because otherwise they get forgotten and lost. But yeah, Instagram and YouTube are my two main sources. Yeah, TikTok. I don't know if it's for me. I feel like TikTok's the place where people go to be entertained when they're laying in bed.
I think TikTok's like a strange blend between a YouTube and an Instagram.
Yeah,
I think it's a social platform, but it's not as I don't know. I think it's becoming a little bit more like Instagram in terms of there was a time not that long ago in reality when it was just like this really positive place, but then I think the trolls are starting to migrate and it's getting a little bit more like the bad side of certain platforms. But yeah, I think it's a strange blend between YouTube long form and Instagram short form.
Well, I was speaking with a photographer who does really well from TikTok. I've never had any leads from TikTok, and I've had some quite decent amount of views on TikTok, but never had any leads. But I was speaking to a photographer who does well. But I suppose it does come down to the audience and who you're going after, and if they see your content. I think TikTok paid ads will become a lot more popular over the next 12 to 18 months. They're still quite far behind Facebook and Instagram from an ad side of things, but I definitely think that that's going to start picking up soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I was considering doing some ads for my digital products because I thought, right, how can I grow this even more? And I logged into Facebook and realized that for some reason my Facebook business profile has been suspended, but it doesn't give me a reason. It's from May. They suspended it. I didn't log into it, so I'm like, okay, cool, no appeal button in sight.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, unless I change my identity, I'm gonna have to just give up on Meta for ads and start to look at TikTok. I think I just need to figure out my kind of strategy for the digital products. So the digital products being the LUTs, the Final Cut effects, and also the the Canva templates for the brochures. So I'm definitely gonna go on there next, because I had a look on the TikTok ads manager. The granularity of picking your audience looks really good, in terms of like you can target by hashtags and all types of things like purchase
Yeah.
intents and that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some good. We run TikTok ads for some clients, and there is some more depth to the granularity.
Yeah,
And I think it's gonna go through like a really fast version of the last like 7 years of the Facebook ads have been through. So like
yeah,
where Facebook ads are at now, Meta ads I should say, both Facebook and Instagram, is that the interests and the lookalikes and all that they don't work anymore. And I
yeah.
think that
Is it because of
TikTok,
iOS 14?
not because of that, because the algorithm's just completely outsmarted it.
Oh, okay.
It's just got way better. So like, there used to be a time where if you were picking interests, there was a little checkbox that said, if you check this, we will serve your ads. Checking this box allows us to serve ads outside of your selected interests.
Okay,
Um,
yeah.
and then
I
basically
remember
once
that.
the platform seemed like interests were getting worse results than people who were checking it, they just made it
Mm,
mandatory. So whatever kind of interests you select on Meta now, they will
yeah.
serve them outside of those. So it's like
Okay.
they
That's
actually
pointless.
stopped writing code into the platform for it in 2018, which is like 4 years ago now. So it's a
Right.
long time ago. We run six-figure spend accounts, like over $200,000 a month, and we don't use any interest whatsoever. Haven't
Okay.
done for years. And it's just, I think that TikTok is going to quickly go through that period. It's going to go through everything where the algorithm layered with their version of AI, whatever it might be, is just going to quickly be able to predict things and just be much better than. It's going to turn the algorithm's power up to 10, I think, and I think it's just going to like rapidly go through a transformation.
Yeah.
I think
That's,
there is some really good like granularity that Facebook don't have.
mm,
But I have seen again, like there is an option on TikTok to switch things to just auto, and it just automatically. Facebook Meta call it Advantage Plus, where they just auto everything.
yeah.
TikTok something similar, which is just like an auto check, and a lot of
Yeah.
times that does outperform the granularity as well. So it's a lot.
Interesting.
There's a big confusion. It's a lot of there's a lot of things going on, a lot of changes, and it's going to change even more. I think
Yeah.
this year Google are going to get rid of cookies, so there's going to be a lot of there's going to be some big changes in the advertising world when that comes to it. But we'll have to
Mm.
do a separate. I think that's its own podcast episode. I think
Yeah.
that's
When that
a
happened.
whole black hole.
One of the things we touched on earlier, Russell, was about like changes in the industry, and I suppose one of the big ones was the content creation, the content
Mhm.
creators coming to wins.
Yeah.
What else are you seeing changing? Say like from 2023 onwards into next year, maybe 18 months ahead. Is there anything you kind of predict or see happening?
I think since Instagram kind of favored reels over photos, I feel very, very sorry for my photographer friends, because they've almost been like forced into less engagement and being forced, dragged into doing reels that they don't really want to do. And I've definitely noticed a decrease in inquiries in the last year. I'm not worrying, because I've got 2024 this year. I keep forgetting what year we're in. It's fine, but I think it's definitely slower looking at 2025 than it was the same time last year. And I think the mid luxury section, and it's not just a video thing, it's not just a photo thing, it's not even just a UK thing. I noticed that the people that I speak to in the US are having the same thing. The mid luxury market, probably to do with the cost of living crisis or whatever crisis we're in at the moment. The mid luxury market, where our clients are like rich for the day, let's say, are kind of being impacted the most. And I think that because people are still getting married, so where are they? Where are they? But yeah, I think that maybe some of the newcomers with the cheaper prices might be taking some of the inquiries from the mid luxury market. The high end, like super luxury market, well, nothing will affect those, because that kind of level and income level is, you could have a total economic collapse and they would still be fine. Whereas, yeah, mid luxury market, I think, is where people are seeing the biggest hit in engagement and inquiries. And I think it's a few things in terms of how expensive everything is. We're having a knock-on effect of not so many couples are engaged, because we've still got lockdown effect from a few years ago. Normally people are going to be together after they've met for a few years before they get engaged, and lockdown probably buggered that up a little bit in terms of having people meet naturally and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, and just the way that Instagram, most people put all their eggs in the Instagram basket, and then having less engagement on photos and just less engagement in general.
It's an interesting point about the even like the level you're being down on bookings or inquiries, because obviously inside of the Facebook group that we've got, we get asked this question a lot, or the topic comes up a lot, even all the different groups that I'm in, and it
Yeah.
seems that everyone, even from the low, I'm talking about photographers and videographers that are charging like £400 up to like say the 2.5, then you've got that kind of 2.5 to 3, and then 3 up to 5 grand. It seems that everyone seems to be down on inquiries. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've noticed it a lot.
I think it's probably just one of those things. I know that a lot of the inquiries that I'm getting as well are still for this year, and I think, oh, I left it a bit late. I mean, if for this year, for like, it used to be people would book a year or two in advance. Now it's like, oh yeah, I'm getting married in 3 months' time. Are you available? So yeah, it's just different patterns, I guess you've got to be aware of.
Yeah, I still think we're kind of in the era. I do think it'll change going forward, but where photographers seem to be booked, a lot of the couples who I speak to, a lot of the time have got the photographer already booked, and then the videographer is kind of secondary to that. But I do think that may change over time.
Yeah,
I think I've only had 2 bookings where they haven't actually booked the photographer yet. They've
yeah,
either seen the stuff the right way. I want to book you. You probably get that as well. But yeah, I mean that might change going forward. But I think photographers are booked quite a bit in advance. But even like I said in the groups, a lot of photographers are still struggling with the bookings. But I feel like what
yeah,
people can do to combat that is a lot of people who talk about struggling to get inquiries or bookings, and then we'll look at the socials. They're not posting on social media. They're not
yeah.
utilizing Reels or TikTok or Facebook or
Mm.
even YouTube as a platform. It's if you are struggling and you're not getting as many
It's,
inquiries or bookings, get out there.
yeah, if you're sitting around waiting for things to come along, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just doing all of those things, like doing the reels, posting regularly, is all going to help. Yeah, it's interesting. Most of my supplier like recommended weddings come from photographers that I've worked with that have hopefully enjoyed the experience of working with me. Yeah, most of them have got a photographer now, whereas there was a little patch where they were like asking me for recommendations, but it hasn't happened for ages. So I don't know.
The way I think about it, I don't know if I think it's funny because it's easier, generally speaking, for a videographer to have content
Yeah,
for the reels and stuff. But
yeah,
I actually think reels and stuff like that makes it a little bit harder for them because I think it's difficult to get somebody. The way reels and those platforms exist is like you say, like short form, boom, 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 like something trending. But in order to really appreciate the value of your work, like you have to be willing to sit down, commit like a few minutes to sit and go through a video. And I think as generations get older, people are less willing to do so. So I think it's actually
yeah,
harder for videographers to get people to buy in, if
yeah.
that makes sense.
Our attention spans are absolutely zapped, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Mm.
it's funny because like I just think the buy-in's harder because attention. I think I change it to consideration span. So I
Hmm.
know that people have still got a attention span because they'll binge Netflix for like 8 hours. So
Yeah,
like you can
whilst
pay
watching the
people pay
phone.
attention to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the same time, yeah. But I think there's a consideration span as things are going because we've said this before. Like if I watch some people I know, like my missus and other people who are a little bit younger, especially, they could cause a friction fire with how fast they. And I'm just like, there's no way you can even see what the video is going to be. You're
Yeah,
giving it like less than a second, so it's literally like the first frame is the
yeah,
consideration before they decide to give it any potential attention, and then
yeah.
it like moves from there. So I
I
think that
do.
it's harder for videographers to get that buy-in.
Well, yeah, because we want to sell our product to a client on the emotion and the story, and if they're only going to give it zero point 0.3 seconds, then they're not going to experience all of that. I think it's a bit like um, internet dating, isn't it? Like, no, 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 no. Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's why thumbnails and stuff are like, you always hear about like Mr. Beast, and I mean Steve Ball was talking about this on one of his podcasts the other week about how many times they change the YouTube thumbnail, and it's all about just grabbing that attention in the first frame. I'm sure
Yeah,
he was talking about like they have over 100 different thumbnails per podcast, and they're constantly testing which thumbnail is grabbing the most attention. I can't remember the exact
oh.
figures. I just remember seeing his little clip on TikTok from his podcast. Um,
So you
but
weren't watching a full podcast; you were just watching a few seconds.
I
I
was
see.
watching it on
You're one of
TikTok.
them. You're one of them.
I was watching a chopped up content on TikTok. Exactly where this will end up.
Yeah.
Any
The
are you any Russell? What I like to ask people, right? Is there have you got any like funny stories or anything from weddings that or anything unique that's happened that you'd like to share?
You know what? Nothing comes to mind, but I see these things all the time. I think, oh, I'm sure stuff happens to me that's like a once in a lifetime. Oh, yeah, yeah, something has happened once, but uh, okay. I mean, the police have come to a wedding before and shut and stopped the wedding.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a few years ago. Luckily, most of my clients don't get arrested on their wedding day. Um, so yeah, nothing really like hilarious or no. But I need to try harder.
So you've
Yeah,
got no photographers falling in the pool stories or anything like that. Those are
no.
always funny videos to come across.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I must get some next year. This year though,
Yeah.
I
Just set a
must
little
start.
I'm
clip
dying to sound like shocking, isn't it? I'd love for something like that to happen to one of the weddings that I'm shooting. I just think views
Yeah,
on me TikTok.
yeah. Your brain is literally like in vertical mode, isn't it?
It is in
Yeah,
complete vertical. What will grab attention and what can I use as an ad?
yeah. What drama can I cause at this wedding just for views?
That's great.
What talking about photographers
Yeah,
from your point of view, what what would you consider a really good what is the or not consider what's the difference between a really good photographer from your point of view being on the videographer side and working with, I'd assume, a lot of really good ones. I think you mentioned someone earlier who is very popular. I can't, the name escapes me now, but
yeah,
what's like the difference in, because from me, and I'm asking this very specifically because for me, again, from the outside looking in, as far as the actual behind the camera stuff,
yeah,
um, I see some people's work who is not as good, and then I see a big gap of like, wow, that's incredible, and I know
yeah.
that that's incredible because I can't stop looking at it, but I can't tell you why. I can't, like, do you
Okay,
know what I mean? So, like, from your point of view, what
yeah.
is not in just the work,
What
but
makes
like
a
the
good
work
photographer to
as
work
well?
with?
Yeah, yeah, to work
Yeah.
with as well. Yeah,
Okay. So there's definitely like good photographers to work with for as a from a videographer's perspective, and there are some absolutely terrible ones. I would say if you want to be a terrible photographer from a videographer's perspective, not, and I don't mean in the actual quality of their work, but in
yeah,
terms of sharing the workload, let's say, and compatibility, making a good photographer will tag team with you. So they'll say like, "I'll get this. What your turn?" So then kind of take it in turns, and pass ideas between each other in terms of location, lighting, and saying like, "Is this working for you?" Or just basically making sure that each of you have got enough time and got what you need for you're both there to do the same job. Also, spatial awareness, elbows when they're shooting in portrait, let's not get those elbows down an aisle. So just yeah, but I guess from a videographer's perspective as well, that's my job to make sure that I'm not in their way as well.
Have you seen the
So
video? Have you seen the viral video? It's an American wedding where I don't know who's who. I can't remember, but I think the photographer's in front of the videographer, and he taps him
okay,
on the shoulder, asking him to come back, and he turns out this is in the middle of the wedding, like outside, and he goes, "Don't touch me."
oh
Are you
god,
seeing it? Oh, it's.
no, I don't think I've seen that one.
I'll have to find it and send you. That's a good. That's a good one to fit what you were saying.
Oh yeah, scary. I
seen
think
that.
also when you're meeting somebody for the first time, just be like a nice person. Don't be like, don't do this, don't do that. Just ask them about themselves, like what do they like to do as well during the ceremony? Do they like to walk back down the aisle, or do they like to stay still? Just so you can be spatially aware of each other when you're both working in the same space.
It's all communication. That's all it is. All of it.
It's all communication.
Just communicate with each other before, and I think that makes it easier for everyone on the day.
Yeah, absolutely, and just have a good time. I think when I first started, I was working with a lot of photographers that had maybe been doing it for a long time, and they were really miserable. And I thought, well, I'm loving this. Why don't you like it? And I think maybe they were just overworked, not maybe enjoying things as much as they used to. And I think just trying to enjoy it, and remember you're at your clients' like happiest day of their life, and that energy that you're giving off, the client is going to feed off of as well. So if you're excited, they're going to be excited, and you're going to get better results that way.
And
Of your couples.
And just to wrap up, Russell, just for all the listeners and stuff, is there anything you've got going on that you can help any people in the wedding industry that you want to direct them to go and check things out?
Well, funny you should say that. A few years ago, I started releasing some LUTs for wedding filmmakers. That was 2020, and I didn't expect anybody to
I bought one.
to download them. Thank you. I appreciate that. Did you get the update recently? Because I think everyone should have got an update with the new version.
Probably not, because I get about 10,000 emails, and I probably haven't even checked if it was sent out via email.
Okay, it might be in your junk mail then, but it is there. And they sat there for 4 years, and I thought, you know what, these need an update. So even on Christmas Day, I was beavering away on my laptop with fresh new set of LUTs, fresh Canva templates. So people who are inquiring and sending out brochures, maybe graphic design isn't your strong point. I've released some brochures which are openable in Canva, and you can just literally drag and drop your images in. I've pre-written all of the text that you need to include, not written it for you obviously, but you've got the placeholders there to replace that with your own text. And it's based on the same brochure that I send out to my clients as well. So I've literally looked at my brochure and gone, right, I'm sick of making these for people. I'm just going to give you the blueprint to that, and you can drag and drop. And then with that, you can then make as many copies of that as you like. You could use it as a welcome brochure, pricing guide. You could even have two if you wanted to give the richer clients a different price. You could do that. And yeah, so I've released the Canva templates and also the Final Cut effects. And yeah, it's been the response so far has been amazing. So yeah, I'm really 2024 education and trying to make things easier for people is definitely my main priority, aside from weddings, obviously.
Go and check them out on Russell's website.
They look incredible. I'm just looking at your stuff. Yeah, it's so. I think you'd be crazy not to check these out if I'm looking. If I'm a videographer and I'm looking at these, I would absolutely swipe everything, because obviously everything you're doing is amazing. So that sounds awesome. Definitely check that out. Anything else that you want to give anybody? Any advice to videographers and photographers coming up in the industry for 24, 25?
Yeah, if you're a photographer or a videographer and you want to get more destination weddings, club together with a friend, put a few £100 in, go to Greece, go to Italy, get an EasyJet flight, hire a dress, even get a dress off ASOS. Like, you can make it work within any budget. Go to a beach at sunset or sunrise and just make as much content as you can. Reels, take your cameras, do as much video, and just milk that content for a few £100, and start posting it everywhere, because that's where you'll get your clients and inquiries from.
I'm about to go and tell the missus that I'm going to Greece tomorrow, and I'm just going to say that Russell said it was fine, and I need to do it for work.
It's an expense and it's mandatory.
But Russell, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure having you on the podcast, especially for the first one of the Get Seen, Get Booked podcast. It was a pleasure having you here, mate. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much. I hope that your listeners find it helpful, and if anyone's got any questions and stuff, they are more than welcome to reach out to me in my Instagram DMs.
Awesome. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.